Farm animal welfare is a prevalent concern of modern European citizens, with a 2016 study indicating that 94% of Europeans consider the protection of farm animals important. In the UK, there is increasing demand for free-range eggs, probably driven by the consumer perception that fresh air and more natural surroundings improve hen welfare. However, in a society concerned with chicken welfare, it begs the question, is welfare experienced by free-range layer chickens actually better than non-free-range layer chickens? The term animal welfare is used widely and loosely, making defining the concept of animal welfare a notoriously difficult challenge. Considering animal welfare as an actual state of the animal rather than the ethical obligations of caretakers makes some headway, with the quality determined by the experience of the individual animal. Whilst one universal definition does not exist, there is increasing consensus amongst organisations to define the multifaceted concept of welfare with respect to three central concerns: the normal functioning of the animal's biological system, the subjective feelings in terms of what they can actually experience, and the opportunity to perform their behavioural repertoire. This holistic approach to animal welfare is reflected by the current UK legislation, with welfare defined by the 5 freedoms of the legally enforceable Animal Welfare Act, standards to adhere by to prevent suffering. Typically, list-like measures of welfare, like the 5 needs, emphasise the avoidance of conditions associated with bad welfare. However, following the works of Fraser and Duncan, there is a movement to include criteria measuring positive welfare, such as the Welfare Quality Measuring System. Additional guidance on the keeping of layer chickens is provided by governmental frameworks such as the UK Government Code of Practice for the Welfare of Laying Hens and Pullets and the EU Council Directive. These documents are based on rigorous scientific merit and provide strict limits to the minimum amount of space available to the birds, as well as resource provisions and management, such as the availability of litter material and the dimensions of purchase. This is in order to safeguard a minimum standard of welfare. The natural behavioural repertoire of modern domestic chickens comprises of ancestral behavioural patterns which are exhibited when offered adequate space and resources. The extent to which adult hens express these behaviours depend not only on the characteristics of the housing system, but also on factors such as genetics and previous experience. In cases where hens are motivated to perform behaviour but are prevented from doing so due to housing constraints, emotional distress or harmful variants of the behaviour may ensue, a clear concern to welfare. Feather pecking is one such example, where misplaced behaviour can damage plumage, inflict pain on conspecifics, and in some cases escalates cannibalism. Whilst the harmful outburst can be an indicator of compromised behavioural repertoire of the pecker, feather pecking impairs the welfare on several lines. Feather removal has been associated with pain, and birds with damaged plumage may face increasing demands on the metabolic system when faced with thermal challenges. While feather pecking and the associated cannibalism can be problematic for free-range flocks, the welfare of individuals may be varied across the system. In one study, Mahoob and colleagues reported that hens spending more time outside displayed less feather damage. Furthermore, Nicole and colleagues reported that high use of the outdoor area reduced the risk of feather pecking by 9 times, suggesting a preventative effect of good use of outdoor runs on the prevalence of feather pecking. As the classification of high use in the study translated to about 20% of birds outside, it is possible that this reduced risk of feather pecking may only be seen in a portion of the flock, the hens dwelling inside excluded from this effect. Modern domestic hens are highly motivated to perform comfort behavior. Regardless of the system, modern domestic hens are highly motivated to perform comfort movements, foraging, and nesting behaviors, with negative welfare implications. Fuck my life! Regardless of the system, modern domestic hens are highly motivated to perform comfort movements, foraging, and nesting behaviors. Modern domestic hens are highly motivated to perform comfort movements, foraging, and nesting behaviors, with negative welfare impacts if these acts cannot be performed, such as the motivation for foraging, that the provision of ad libitum food does not reduce the desire to engage in the behavior, and some hens may participate in contra-freeloading. In studies employing consumer demand theory, Ganesaran and colleagues found that all subjects would work to obtain straw. Whereby the foraging behavior is restricted and fails to satisfy the hen's motivation, foraging behaviors may be redirected towards other birds, resulting in injurious pecking. As a highly motivated behavior, provisions are made in all housing systems to allow hens to express foraging activities. In non-free-range systems, this is typically in the form of a litter area, either in the barn or in furnished cages. Whilst this is sufficient in non-caged, non-free-range systems, providing an area which allows full expression of foraging behaviors in furnished cages can be problematic. Resources to allow foraging are rapidly depleted, and because of the limited access, individuals may be excluded by more dominant hens. Hens with access to the range may have greatly increased opportunities to forage, and in addition to the opportunity to spread out for the preferred distance when foraging, they also have the opportunity to explore different plants, expanding behavioral options, and afforded the freedom to ingest preferred foods, an aspect of choice and agency. However, the opportunity to range also comes with the risk of predation and parasitic infection. Recorded mortality rates due to predation ranges from 2% to 6%, not an outcome that all chickens will experience, however, one that non-free-range chickens do not risk. Conversely, parasitic infestation is a concern all housing systems. Yet, a 2004 study in 29 UK farms showed that the population of nymph and adult red mites was significantly higher in free-range systems compared to those without access to outdoors. Infestations of red mites are a serious concern to hen welfare, with infested birds more likely to feather peck. They are physiologically stressed due to the levels of adrenaline, the plumage quality deteriorates, and individuals are less productive. If left untreated, the birds can become anemic and die. First reported after the introduction of conventional cages in the USA, skeletal weakness is a well-known condition in egg-laying chickens related to several causal factors, including nutrition, egg production, and inactivity. Generally, bone fragility is caused by the progressive development of osteoporosis, whereby the major metabolic requirement in terms of calcium mobilization from the bones to produce eggs make laying hens susceptible to bone fragility and fractures. When taken with evidence demonstrating hens with keel fractures show a preference for a place associated with analgesia, whilst uninjured birds did not, thereby suggesting the experience of pain, fractures may be considered a threat to individuals' welfare. Poor nutrition and intense egg production are compounding factors of bones weakness of high-yielding hens. However, restrictions on the bird's movement is usually accepted as the main cause. When compared with chickens from cage systems, outdoor hens had significantly stronger tibia and humeri. Since exercise is seen to enhance bone strength, the threat to welfare with access outdoors, who typically walk up to 2,500 meters a day compared to the 1,500 meters of non-caged chickens, may be reduced. However, it can be challenging to accurately assess the impact brittle bones has on welfare, as many hens may suffer breakages from depopularization and transport, thus not necessarily giving a true reflection on the everyday life of the system. Most post-mortem examinations may reveal evidence that the chickens have suffered from old fractures characterized by the calcium deposit around the area. Whilst non-caged chickens may exhibit stronger bones than caged chickens, evidence suggests there's a higher incidence of old bone fractures, possibly due to damage when moving around the fixtures of the system. As there is strong evidence that chickens experience pain with fractures, untreated fractures are of great concern to welfare, along with the possibility of chronic pain. Ultimately, concluding in which system hens experience better welfare is a daunting task. Without a common currency of welfare, it is difficult to ascertain the value each factor has on the welfare of the individual. Simplistic measures such as the 5 animal needs prove to be a useful overarching goal of welfare, but without weighting, welfare assessments may be subject to stakeholder bias. To combat this bias, there has been an increasing movement to develop systems where animals are assessed in regards to what's important to the animal. Marion Stamp Dawkins has provided a two-stage strategy asking, is the animal healthy, and does it have what it wants? The factors considered in this video are no means an exhaustive list, however demonstrate the depth of discussion required when assessing the multifaceted concept of animal welfare. That being said, the evidence discussed was purely in relation to the different housing systems, whereas realistically there may be numerous other factors at play, such as breed disposition, geographical location, and previous experience. From the points of this video, it appears that chickens in free-range systems have the opportunity to engage in activities that have positive impact on welfare, but not without the associated risks. As not all the chickens in the free-range system will experience the adverse effects of the housing system, the overall welfare of the flock may be considered to be better than that of non-free-range systems. However, for the individuals that do, individuals in non-free-range systems may be considered to experience better welfare.